Hi all. After finishing the cell, the fundamental unit of life, we are moving to the next chapter, that is tissues. So if there is any doubt from that first chapter, you can comment wherever I have posted the video or below this wherever I am posting the video for both cell and tissues. So a cell and tissue both are interconnected. That means cell is the basic structural fundamental unit of life. So without cell there is no tissue, without tissue there is no organ, without organ there is no system. So now in this chapter we are going to study about what are the different types of tissues present in living system, both in plants and animals. So we have to study it separately before entering to the tissues. Before entering to the detail, we have to know what is a tissue. The word tissue means, or it is originated from a French term known as tissure. Tissuer. I hope so. It is Tissuer. I don't remember exactly. Tissuer, which means woven. Woven means whenever we are stitching, like that, when some persons, when they removed a small area and observed under the microscope, they found like that. So from that the term tissue is came to exist, and there is no relation between woven and what we are going to study, but they have not changed the name. So if you want to give a definition for a tissue is we can say that a tissue can be defined as a group of physically linked cells and associated intracellular substances that is specialized for a particular function or functions. Remember, a tissue can be defined as a group of physically linked cells and its associated intercellular substances that is specialized for a particular function or functions. It can be for a function or functions. Any one of that can be called as a tissue. And the first person who introduced this term tissue, his name is Xavier Bichet in 1801, and the study of tissues is known as histology. And what is the importance of studying these tissues? For example, in if you see in a in human system, we have a lot of system that is functions inside: digestive system, cardiac system, nervous system. It is very difficult to find a cell, that means in front of the eyes it is very difficult to study. But if you study a tissue, if a tissue is performing well, it under the microscope, if you study the tissue, we can understand that if a tissue is functioning well, we can understand that the cell is also functioning well. That means as a fundamental unit of life. But nowadays, with the help of very good microscope, electron microscope, SEM and TEM, it is possible to study in a cellular level, even subcellular level also it is possible to study. But in earlier times we don't have any such things. So that is why the tissues came to the importance. And the tissue level of, we can study tissue level carcinoma, cancers, what is infecting to the cancers, biopsy. Under the biopsy they are observing this, while observing this cancerous tissues. So if a tissue is defected, or if tissue is spreading very fast, it means that cell is dividing very fast. If a cell is dividing unwantedly, it causing cancer. So these are the things nowadays in the modern era we are used. So we will go one by one. First we will discuss what are the tissues present inside the plant, then what are the tissues present inside the animal, what is its function, other things we will study. So inside the plant there are two types of tissues are there. Mainly there are two types of tissues. One is known as meristematic tissue and another one is known as permanent tissue. These are the main type of tissues that is present inside the plant. And meristematic tissues means tissues have the capacity to regenerate into any part of a plant. They are known as meristematic tissues. And permanent tissues means they don't have the capacity to for the further divisions. So they are known as permanent. They will never divide further. So there are in between there are also some cases are there that we'll study there. So the person who coined this term meristem, his name is Carl William von Negley. He's the first person who coined this term meristem. So these names are asked in some of the exams, not in CBSE point of view. Some of the exams, if you are preparing, so this will be very useful. So if you just think about a meristematic tissues we can find anywhere in the plant which is growing. We can find meristematic tissue in the root tip. We can see meristematic tissues in the tip of a branch, tip of a leaf. Sorry, not tip of the leaf, tip of the branch, tip of the root. Some the middle portion of the bark, stem. All the areas we can see this meristematic tissues. So these meristematic tissues are further divided into three. So if you see in this diagram is copied exactly from the CBSE. CBSE also is given a same thing. When we see this meristematic tissue, these meristematic tissues are of three types in plant mainly. One is known as the apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissue, and lateral meristematic tissue. So it is very easy to understand. Apical meristematic tissues are present to the tip of a plant, and intercalary meristems are present in the growing tip of a growing tip of a stem and roots. They are present. That is the apical meristematic tissue. And if you are seeing about the intercalary meristematic tissue, it is present at the base of the nodes. And if you see the lateral meristematic tissue, it can mainly find on a one plane. You can see that a plane in upside direction like that. If we can see this meristematic tissue. So what is its function? What are these meristematic tissues are doing? So if you first think about the apical meristematic tissue, apical meristematic tissue is present in both. If it is present in the tip of a stem, it is known as the stem apical tissue, apical meristematic tissue. And if it is present inside the tip of a root, it is known as the root apical meristematic tissue. So what is the main function of this apical meristematic tissue is, this tissue helps the plant to increase in height lengthwise, and in the root also lengthwise it can grow very deep. So this is the main function. So if the plant has to increase the height or in length, apical meristematic tissue must be active. If it is inactive, it can't increase in height. In lateral meristematic tissue, so when we are coming to the lateral meristematic tissue, this lateral meristematic tissue will be found in a one plane, and it will help to increase in diameter, increase in diameter. And in intercalary meristematic tissue, it is found in between the nodes of a leaf base. So this is also in helping to increase the size of internodes from which these branches can arise. So intercalary meristems are responsible for the growth of branches. Lateral meristematic tissues are responsible for increase in the diameter, and apical meristem is responsible for the increasing the height of the plant, or it otherwise it is increasing in length. So these are the main meristematic tissues which we found inside this plants. And when we talk about this meristematic tissues, they are very elastic in nature. They are very elastic in nature and they are arranged very compactably, and they are very rich in cytoplasm, very rich in cytoplasm, and it contains only few vacuoles. Why they are containing only vacuoles, or sometimes there will be no vacuoles? If vacuoles are there, the division will be very difficult, very difficult, because vacuoles means empty space. Empty space, it is not possible to divide, because they have to maintain the ploidy, that means the chromosomal structure of a particular cell. So vacuoles will be very difficult to divide. So there may be a vacuole or there may be no vacuole inside the meristematic tissue. So some of the meristematic tissues we can see in all oval shape, or a polygonal shape, or a rectangular in shape. Any of these shapes are present. Some of the meristematic tissues may have a large vacuole. So if vacuoles are present, what will happen? They can store some food. So if the no vacuoles are there, they don't need to store anything. So if they store any food, that means it will increase in diameter. So the lateral meristematic tissues may have few vacuoles, but this apical meristematic tissues, most of the times they don't have any vacuoles, because they need increase in height. In the lateral meristematic tissues, if the vacuoles are present, they can store some food materials, so that increase in grit of the plant is possible. Is it clear? And there will be no intercellular space if vacuoles are present. So these are the main thing that we have to know. Apart from that, when we see from a plan from outside point of view, this plant will be having mainly three types of tissue system will be there. One is known as to the top, which is called as the epidermis. Number two is called as the vascular tissue, which is helped to conduct the water. That means in order to transport water from one place to another and to carry the produce food material from one part of the plant to another. Number three is known as ground tissue, which have the capacity to store the nutrients and manufacturing, that means photosynthesis and other things. So these are the three types of tissue systems that is present, and this plant tissue system is originated either from a meristematic tissue or from a permanent tissue. So that will go one by one in the coming class. I think the basics and the beginning is understood by you. If there is any doubt, please comment below wherever I am posting the video. Thank you.